Welcome back to the channel, everyone. As part of the last episode we did a review on the Detroit Speed Aluma frame. And so because we're gonna have to cut out the shock tower, we're gonna have to install the Aluma frame. Well, guess what? The motor and trans has to come out. That's what we're talking about today. We're gonna go over a quick little recap of me pulling the motor. You know, it's not too much work, but obviously being in the garage on your back, flat backing with the transmission, it's gonna present a little bit of a challenge, but that's fine, you can work around it. So again, just to recap, because we gotta install the new front clip, we gotta pull the motor and trans out. So follow along. Thanks for watching. All right, so far I'm just working the bell housing, perimeter bolts. I got most of the ones in the bottom, the easy ones. There's a few on the passenger side, hugged up against the tunnel. I'll probably have to use a long extension on. Same thing for the driver's side, and then I'm gonna start working the trans mount, get the cross member undone, get the trans supported, and we'll just keep working from there. Got to pull the master cylinder out to pull the motor out. This motor is, all this stuff's coming out anyways. We're gonna likely push the firewall back, so that's why I'm gonna remove the master cylinder. So I just got these two bolts here, and then these two hydraulic lines going into the cylinder. So yeah, that's just what we got now. Already got the passenger side headers just about down to just that bolt there and that one in there. I'm gonna try and get the gearbox out before I go for the headers, just because I don't want to, these headers were ceramic coated and I don't want to be in there banging them up. We got it. We want love. We got it. Pretty much got everything out. We got the headers out. Those went out pretty smooth. I had to disconnect the steering shaft on this side because that went through
those 2 cylinders there. So had to disconnect that and unbolt the rack from the subframe to allow this shaft here to get enough space between the rack, basically to pull it. So anyways, did that. One of the headers are in the car. So there's that guy in there. And yeah, for a 2-inch, 3.5-inch collector, long tube header, with shock towers, you know, with all this stuff in there, I mean, it came out pretty good. Did not have to fight it. So again, that's another, just another plug to the guy who built the headers. So right now we're down to just waiting for a transmission jack. The trans jack I should be able to pick that up hopefully tomorrow. I saw one at Harbor Freight, so I just decided I'll go ahead and rent one. There's a place down the street here locally. They were supposed to have it back today, but if they don't, I'll get it tomorrow. So pretty much got the transmission supported by a jack stand. Cross members back there, it's down. And then the only thing I really have left, I even started some of the scatter shield bolts. I believe it's 8. There's one up here hiding. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8 bolts. And the transmission will come out, and then I'll go ahead and pull the scatter shield separately. I'll probably leave the clutch and pressure plate on, just because I don't think I need to pull that. If I could sell this as one unit to a single person, I think it just works out best that way, because someone can take this literally and get it into your first gen Mustang, your Falcon, or your Cougar. And if you're thinking the word bolt on with that stuff back there, you might want to just be prepared ahead of time for some fab work. Really, I don't think this is that hard. For those of you with some fabrication skills, or your local shop that has a solid fabricator, I think this is a walk in the park to install this on an early Ford. I recommend doing wheel tubs as well, because I mean, if you want the stance, you got to do the tubs. And these cars just, I think the suspension works so much better when you have enough contact patch on the road. But yeah, you secure it to the road by having a solid chassis, a solid suspension, your steering mechanism, that all has to be on point. The only downside with this Flaming River thing was it did have play in it, but I think that was more to how it was set up. I think had it been set up right, it would have actually been a pretty decent system. The Flaming River, I did have probably, I would say about maybe 1/2 inch of free play before the steering came on center. But when it was on, and when I was going through corners and just kind of the way this thing was, the car handled really good. I mean, it hugged, and I think it was mainly due to the tires, the contact patch, the suspension, and then this car also has a 6-point roll bar and weld-in subframe connector. So it's not bad, but from what I'm trying to do, it could be better. So I think that's really the main drive behind going this route. Plus, you know, if I can set the motor back a few inches, that is just a huge win. I think anytime you can improve the 50-50 balance on your car, this is a huge plus. In a perfect world, I'd have a Dart aluminum 9.5 engine block, but it just wasn't in the cars at the time. And when this motor was built, I got a really good deal on this Iron Eagle, and so it's going to be more than enough to do what we're doing. So I think just improving the oiling system by running a dry sump will just be so much better for, one, reducing pumping losses on the engine, improve ring seal, as well as negative pressure in the crankcase, which all adds up to power. EFI University, or one of those channels, Ben Strader, did a LS3 416 stroker, and with the factory LS3 oil pan and oil system, and then he did no other changes but swapped to a dry sump. I think the car made a peak of like 20 horsepower more, but it was like 16 horse, and I want to say around the same in torque throughout the power band. So I would say on a motor like this, we should easily be somewhere near 750. The other thing to keep in mind is when this motor was dynoed, it was dynoed with stepped headers. It was 1 7/8 to 2 inch. The custom headers that are made on it now are 2 inch all the way to 3.5 inch collectors. So between those two changes, I would say it's safe to say this motor would be right around 750 horse, and then somewhere around a little over 600 pounds of torque. So for those of you who haven't seen the dyno video, go to the channel and look back. You'll see 430 Windsor dyno part 1 and 2. The only difference between the two videos is we changed out a camshaft. One cam was more nitrous oriented, and that cam we believe was bleeding off cylinder pressure, so the motor was very peaky. It still made over 700 on that one. What we did was we swapped out to a cam that was more efficient on motor, and then would still make good power on spray. And so that was the difference between the two. All right, here we are, day 2. Now, I was waiting for a trans jack from the local part supply store. For whatever reason, it's not back in stock. So I'm just gonna keep pressing. The one thing I have going in my favor is I got a shit ton of these ply boards. Also got a really good jack. I know how to work this thing where I can just back the trans out, lower it to a jack, use the ply boards where I'm only like gonna drop it a 1/2 inch or so. So I'm not really too much worried about not having a trans jack. It was just more so nice to have the right tool to do the job and a little bit safer, but I can still make it work. I can work around it. So let's press on. We're gonna set up a bunch of boards underneath the gearbox, undo the gearbox to scatter shield bolts, pull it out of the shaft, let her drop. So should be pretty straightforward. Should. Let's get back to work. We're gonna get up on the tail shaft because I'm gonna do is relieve the jack stand. I got a hockey puck on the bottom of my jack, which I recommend. I can't think, other than wood itself, I can't think of a better material to really kind of get up underneath any kind of piece of equipment that you're really trying to protect. All right, so we're swapping you out. As you guys can see, so there we are. But if you take a look at the gearbox, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So I got 8 bolts separating the gearbox from the QuickTime. So what I'm gonna do is take a little 2x4, put the guy there. Now, if you guys can see that right where my finger is, I'm not gonna put my finger there, but that's gonna pretty much serve as the pressure relief point. Now, I can lower this. I'm just gonna back the jack off so you guys can see. I can lower that. And I mean, it'll come right down on the wood, but I'm never a fan of letting just raw weight, you know, hang on materials, or raw weight hang on, you know, the input, because at that point, the load's gonna be on this guy here. All right, let's go further. All right, now I'm getting ready to take the load off. All right, that's what we're looking for. So now we got pretty much the same angle for the transmission as if the cross member and all that stuff was hooked up. So we're pretty much right there on par. So what we'll do now is we'll start undoing the bolts, and we'll work from there. breaking loose the bolts. All right, once I get the bolts broken loose, slow. Okay. Keep going. All right, stop. All right, go up again a little bit. Keep going. Go. All right. Let it down a little bit. Huh? What? Oh, the shifter? Yeah. That's neutral. Yeah. All right. So. Alrighty, got the gearbox out. Now we're gonna knock out the scatter shield, undo that, let the nose down, undo the engine mounts, pull the motor up, get the scatter shield out. I'll leave the clutch and pressure plate installed just because that's not really much of a clearance issue as the scatter shield. So I'll go ahead and get this off, and then we'll get the car down and get it going. By the way, I'm using all hand tools, or I do have an air ratchet and a impact gun set up, but I really don't feel like using it right now. This will suffice. I mean, I've got this far without any issue. All right, down she goes. All right, so we're down just to the pressure plate, flywheel, and separator plate. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that on because now we got the clearance to pull the motor straight up. I had to pull the QuickTime bell housing out before getting that motor lifted. So I knew I didn't want to, it probably would have came out, but I didn't want to take the chance of messing around with it. So I just went ahead and removed the bell housing. But I know a lot of the third gen Falcons, US Ford Falcons, 66 through 69 Falcons. We're kind of wondering how a T56 Magnum would fit. So I just wanted to show you guys what this tunnel looked like. It's pretty much a stock tunnel, so let's just kind of pan over it. The only thing that's really been relieved, because previously in here with the 408 setup, the old 408 was a TKO 500 or TKO 600 5-speed, and I mean that was pretty much the method. That was a combination that survived a better part of 10 years. Pulled it out, still running, not an issue with it, but it was just time to move on. But as you can see, there was no clearance of this tunnel. The 6-speed was longer. Most of the data will call for, it's optimal for a carbureted motor to have 0 degrees on the I don't know if it's the crankshaft degree in a horizontal plane. And the most you want your gearbox, especially there's a RPM, and there's an RPM relation to the degrees, but I think 1 to 2 degrees or 0 to 2 degrees is optimal on a manual transmission, especially if you're going to turn some RPM in it. We were sitting about 3.5, 4 degrees at least. So it wasn't optimal. I think now that we're going to go ahead and cut the front shock towers and the front crossmember out, I'm going to go ahead and have a trans tunnel put in here just to clearance the car, give it enough. So this way we're not messing around with any kind of, you know, weird driveline angles, and it actually running a flat pan will allow me to run the motor hopefully lower in the car and back. So this way, you know, that tunnel area right there, you'll see. Ideally, it'd be nice to have this area here relieved a couple inches, and then have this motor sitting back, you know, and then along with that, then just a taller tunnel to allow everything to tuck up in. That's just kind of the idea behind it. So there we are. I think that's pretty much the hard part. Now let's just get the motor out, get the bolts undone, and let's get her up. All right, so we're down just to finally pulling the motor. I'll show you guys right quick, just the mount bolt right there. And then same for driver side. Just a bolt there and a bolt there, and we're coming up. So got the trans out. Getting down to the nitty gritty. Got everything out. Got the lift plate in, pulling out the motor mount bolts, and away she should, and up she should come. Now I'm about to lower the car to that way we have enough clearance. So I got the cherry picker set up, and we're pretty much good. So let's finish. Money on that side. And money on this side. Now I'm gonna have to.
You said pump it?
Yep. Go ahead. Pump. Go ahead, pump. Get a rhythm going like a. Fuck. I don't think it's gonna go. Got it.
Such precision.
Huh? Basically, it bolts up to where the dial pins are.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it might. Let me see. I'll try. I don't think it will. Just worth a shot. And take off the motor mounts, which are. Alrighty. Finally got it out. Actually wasn't so bad, other than just working in a tight space. So now we're making progress. Got the motor out. We're gonna take these measurements, set up, we're gonna run for the dry thump. So stay tuned. I'm gonna clean up and get everything kind of squared away and try and get a Jones system ordered up and get on a calendar, get on someone's schedule, and we'll go from there. Make sure, if you've been following, make sure to hit that thumbs up or even hit the thumbs down if you need to do that. Comment if you got questions on this build, the motor, the combination. Feel free to just ask. I'll try and share as much information as I can. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, support the channel. So stay tuned.
Windsor.